Thank you for joining us on History FM Radio on liveparanormal.com and history.fm. From paranormal to the unexplained history, it all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in live interactive chat 24/7 with our radio show hosts and other like-minded people on www.liveparanormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by full interactive media. Stop by now and join in on the fun.
The views expressed here within the programs and chats do not necessarily represent the views of liveparanormal.com.
You're listening to Live Paranormal Radio at liveparanormal.com.
Good evening and welcome to Shriekfest Radio. This is Denise Gossett. I am your hostess for the night. I am also the festival founder and director. Shriekfest is a horror, thriller, sci-fi, fantasy film festival and screenplay competition. And we also have a demo reel category. And for the demo reel, it can be any genre, any type. So it could be editing, directing, acting, special effects, makeup effects, anything you might have a demo reel for. We know how hard it is to get people to watch those in this industry, so we decided to create a category for it. And the best will screen at the festival, and then the winner takes home a prize. So we have unofficially opened our call for entries for 2016. We were getting quite a few emails, so I finally said, oh, okay, it's open. But we haven't officially sent out press releases or anything like that. But we have been getting submissions, which is kind of frightening because I don't feel like I've gotten recovered from Shriekfest 2015, which happened early October. So we'll see how that goes. I'll get my second win here soon. So, yeah, excited about that coming up. Will be the official press releases and all that for that. But like I said, you can go ahead and submit now. Our website is shriekfest.com. And we have competitions for short screenplays, feature screenplays, in the sci-fi, horror, thriller, fantasy categories. And we have short films and feature films in those same categories. So get them in, get them ready, get prepped. We're excited to see them. And let's see, Shriekfest 2016 will be our 16th year. Crazy. And it will be sometime in October. We have not set official dates yet. But we are on Twitter. Come give us a follow. We're on Facebook. Come give us a like. We'd appreciate that. And, wow, Shriekfest Radio has been going on for almost, 3.5 years. Shoot, in January. I'll be doing it 3 years. That's kind of crazy. I cannot believe it. It's been going on this long. And as you know, sometimes I take a week off here and there, depending on what I got going on in my life. But my goodness, there's quite a few archived on iTunes, which is pretty exciting. So tonight, our call-in number, if you have a question for myself or for my awesome guest, Iqbal Ahmed, you can call 619-639-4606, 619-639-4606, and we'll get your questions answered. If you are shy and would rather not be on the air, you can always email at shriekfest.com or tweet at Shriekfest, and I will periodically glance at those and make sure we get your questions answered. Awesome. So let's get Iqbal on the line. Very excited to chat with him. He took home the 2015 win for Best Sci-Fi Feature Film, The Answer. It's an awesome movie. And he had a finalist screenplay, too, for STEM. and pretty talented guy. Very excited to catch up with him. I haven't spoken to him other than email since the festival. So, Iqbal, welcome to Shriekfest Radio.
Hi, Denise. How are you? I'm thrilled to be on.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. How have you been? Have you recovered?
I've just barely recovered. I have to say that it was such an impressive event. I don't think I was prepared for just the wonderful scale and the amazing community at the festival.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, I think different filmmakers probably have different experiences, but you know, there's the whole gamut between, you know, what it's like going to Cannes and then what it's like probably screening in some random stranger's garage. You know, it seems like there's every kind of there's a broad range. So to have such a fantastic festival, so well organized, you're the coolest and always kept us posted with everything. It was such a treat. No, it was really nice. You know, I know, having chatted with a lot of the other filmmakers, we all just felt really we felt special, and it felt like we were really around our brethren. You know, like it felt like everybody who was there just really wanted to be there because they loved these kinds of movies. And you know, and the love we got from you also, just I think you set the tone for everything. So without making this too much of a love fest, you know, we're all very grateful that you've done this. So I'm extra thrilled to be on today.
Well, you know, to do a film festival, you know, it's a lot of work. And so I always tell people, you know, why would you do a film festival unless it's going to be for the filmmakers and the writers and, you know, everyone involved in the films, because it's not about me, it's not about Shriekfest, it's about you guys. And if we can't make it a loving, warm environment, why bother?
Great point. You know, and I would actually say that, you know, having been in this business for a little while, it does feel like sometimes it's confusing what folks' motive actually is. You know, sometimes it feels like it's really just for people to feel glamorous momentarily, or it's for people to sell things like commodities. But, you know, those of us who spend years at a time making a single project, you know, we're the last people who would think of those things as commodities, you know. So it's you know, it's nice going to a festival where it really is about just loving the genre, loving the community, and just getting to see other people's cool work, you know, because that's not something we often get to do. I mean, I'll speak for myself. You know, you're in a dark room editing or dealing with sound or any number of things for what feels like years at a time, even if it's just weeks sometimes. So it's nice to come up for air and see what everybody else has been up to.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, on The Answer, man, you wrote, directed, produced, you even had small acting parts. I mean, how did you do it?
You know, it was crazy. We had a pretty micro budget, and I wanted to tell as big a story as I could. So for me, you know, I think I always knew I'd write and direct it. I produced it mainly because I was the cheapest person I knew, you know. In fact, I was free. So I'm the one bozo who's got all the time in the world to put towards this passion project. And so by virtue of that, I ended up producing it. And, you know, to be honest with you, for ages, I'd sort of been attached to a number of different kinds of scripts at larger places, at like, you know, at studios or then at production companies, other kinds of things where I'd be attached as a director. But it always kept coming down to, hey, man, we love you, we love the script of yours, but you're a first-time director, so unfortunately our financiers aren't cool with that. And so, you know, many years of doing that told me, well, you know, and frankly I was really dumb for letting it go that many years, but the fact is at some point I just said, you know what, I'm always going to be a first-time director until I'm not. So I think it's up to me to figure that out and to make a movie. And, you know, frankly, it kind of makes sense. Nowadays, that's the best way to know if somebody can make a good movie is to see a whole movie they made. So that's kind of how I approached it. And that's why I wore so many hats, which is, you know, once at that point I realized that I needed to figure out how to make this movie for a tiny, tiny budget. I figured out, well, what kind of movie do I want to tell? What are the resources that I have at my disposal? Because let's face it, I need a ton of help here. And I sort of started backwards that way. And that's how The Answer, that was the genesis, essentially.
Wow. Well, most people would not jump in like you did for, this is amazing. This is your feature directorial debut, and it's wonderful, truly wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've been pleased with the response. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know you went to USC Film School and everything,
Sure.
but still, it takes a lot of nerve to, first of all, write a script. I mean, people are, so many people are just terrified to sit down and start writing, and you did that. And
by the way, I was terrified, and I still did it.
Yeah.
But yes, I face it every day. So those of you guys who are scared, it's totally, that will never go away. It's cool. Just be scared and push forward anyway.
Exactly. And so then you get the script written. You got through that terror. How did you say, okay, I'm gonna produce this, I'm gonna direct this, and I can do this? How did you?
It's kind of funny because I made this movie in so many weird backwards ways that you don't read about in books. Having gone to SC for grad school, there's a normal way you sort of produce things. But for me, I was like, okay, I'm only going to be able to raise a tiny bit of money from various investors, friends, whomever else. That's really, really tiny. Let me make a list of my resources, and I start doing that, and all of a sudden I realize the one place I can maybe get away with doing this thing that's not really convenient to LA but might make this movie happen, any movie happen, was my hometown. So, and I'm from a wonderful town called Danville, Virginia, in southern Virginia, right on the border with North Carolina. And
nice.
I had such a wonderful time growing up there, and I knew so many people in the community. My mom and dad are still there. So I sort of did like a reconnaissance mission where I flew out before I'd even thought about writing a script, and I just visited all these cool little iconic places from my hometown and talked to the owners and said, hey, no, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if you remember me. I knew your son or daughter from high school, or hey, my mom,
cool.
or hey, you knew my brothers. Would you be cool if one of these days, maybe like a year from now, I come back and maybe shoot for a night in your place for a little movie I might make? And everybody got so jazzed. I mean, again, I don't think they really knew what I was talking about, but they were just like, what, a movie? Sure, awesome, that'll be fun. So I had a checklist of places I knew I could write into a story, and I listed them out, and then basically I knew that I wanted to make a grounded sci-fi movie. So I was like, okay, well, how do I make that story fit with what I've got? And so it was this interesting kind of back and forth, and
wow.
It wasn't 100% tailored, and I realized, whoa, I really need this location for story. Let me reach out again. But it was kind of nice because I've been in the situation where I've written before, and then when it comes time to try to produce something, the budget's outrageous because people are like, wait, where on earth are you going to get this entire place for a whole night, or whatever. So I went. It was a little bit backwards, so I wrote the script after that, and then when it came time to produce, it was really basically just showing up again and saying, okay, gang, here it is. We're ready to start filming this movie. I need your help. Please, if you want to be an extra, you're in there. If you have any gear to donate, you're totally part of the team. And it was this wonderful snowball effect, and I think people were surprised to see a large-ish kind of production. I think they thought it was going to be me holding a camera, an actor or two, and a guy with a boom pole. And, there were like 40 of us. So it was, we were really able to make our limited resource, to really stretch them out, So I think, again, I produced it, but it was a lot of that sort of producing that happened ahead of time just to sort of set the groundwork. So then when the time came, we were ready to rock and roll, and essentially, I brought in a line producer when it was really time for me to put on my director's hat and stop thinking about all the little details that inevitably will swamp you. But so that was the one weird kind of backwards way I did it. But I have to say that I think it worked out because when you know what the kind of story you want to tell, and the places that you're going to be shooting in already, or you sort of know the scale that you can achieve, it's kind of nice, because I think a lot of times, at least I'll speak for myself as a writer or director, you have this amazing, crazy imagination, this vision of that includes everything and the kitchen sink, And then when the realities of budget come, you realize, oh, man, I'm really just going to have to chop this story in half or really sacrifice so many things. But for me, it was kind of nice because I was able to live in that world. And I took tons of location photos, and some of it, I mean, frankly, I remembered a lot of these places just growing up. It was nice because I really knew what I wanted out of a location, and I never asked for something crazier than I could actually get. So, so from a small budget standpoint, I think it was handy, and I would definitely recommend that to anybody, to work with the places and the locations and the things that you have at your fingertips and just milk it, make the most of it.
Well, Iqbal, it's so smart in so many ways, and I love that you did that for so many reasons. Now, and you may not even have realized what you were doing when you were doing this, but every time you talk to someone, you were putting out into the universe, I'm making this film.
You're right. You know what?
Be ready for me. I'm coming.
Yeah. And you know what? And also say, it made a difference for me psychologically. And I didn't think it would. I think a lot of us, look, this is a scary business, right? We all face rejection all the time for things we write. If you're an actor, God knows how many rejections you have to face on a regular basis. As a director, geez, it's impossible to get attached to anything, and when it is, you're lucky if there's any kind of a budget. So for me, there were a million reasons why I was dragging my feet or scared about the whole thing. And then at some point I was like, well, this isn't going to change unless I just start doing something. It's like looking at that blank white page on Final Draft or your notebook or whatever it is, and you're just spooked, and just too scared to start because you're up against the world of amazing literature or the whole canon of fantastic movies, but it kind of all had to start somewhere, And for me, it was just like, you know what? I just need to do it because I'm not going to get better until I do it. I know myself. I am no genius. I'm a dude who has to learn through failing. So it's just like, okay, time to start the failure. And there was something weirdly reassuring about that, where it's like, okay, this doesn't have to be perfect. This just has to be mine. And somehow in that process, when everybody starts getting your positivity and seeing your genuine enthusiasm and getting psyched that you're in your hometown and all these people know you and they all want to help out, I think that builds a momentum. And I was very lucky enough that I think we had a really nice shoot and a nice time during production because there was just a lot of really solid energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and, and you're also making yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You put it out there, and now these people, you don't want to let down all these people who think you're coming back to the movie.
That's right. Hey, here's our shoot date. Okay, and the moment I had to say that, man, you start sweating, your palms start going crazy, your heart, you hear your ear beating in your heart rather beating in your ear, because I can feel it now, I really can, because it was just that thing of okay, once I say this, and I'm specific, and I've said this to more than two people, this becomes a thing, this is a train that is in motion, and but it's cool, and I would urge more people to do it. Because it's very different than talking. Some people say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. No. Very different. I want everyone to realize that. Yeah, and I got really great advice from somebody once where it was like, look, man, having a terrible movie that's out there in the world is actually still better than that perfect movie that never came out of you.
Yes.
And
I agree
with that. Really cool and reassuring because he's like, look, just think about how many ways you will learn through failing if you do. And you know what? I bet you don't fail as hard as you think you might.
Exactly.
And, it's cool. At the end of the day, I think we should all just go for it because, look, go in with a plan. Prepare yourself. I'm not saying to wing it. What I am saying is to prepare, but just do it and commit and be cool with it not being perfect because I don't know a single person. I don't know studio directors who thought that anything they did was perfect. Not a single person.
Right, exactly. People would keep re-editing and cutting and they just work on it forever, but you can't.
Exactly. And it's not fun. Don't beat yourself up. Go make something that you think is cool or is fun or is, a lot of what you want to put out there And, absolutely we'll have limitations. We had budget, we had location limitations, we had all kinds of stuff. But, try to think creatively. But, again, for me, the big lesson was, okay, just do it. And then as you do it and start to get the hang of it, things get better. And you surprise yourself. And every now and then when you do a terrible job or you weren't prepared, you're like, okay, right, yes, I didn't do the legwork. Time to double down, I'm sure I've been highly repetitive here, but it's really just about taking the chance. Yeah, take the chance.
Yeah, I'm all about that because, guys, the time is going to go by anyway.
Yes,
Why
exactly.
not have something at the end of the year?
It's so true.
And matter of fact, you could almost say, just go out and make a horrible film. Just go make a horrible film.
And you know what? Don't spend money on it even. If you're scared about it, look, for me, I wanted to make a really low-budget movie because on some level, it's just like, okay, well, I know I've studied this stuff, and I know I've done, shorts that weren't bad and music videos or whatever, but, man, can I direct a whole movie, a feature? Ugh. I might just be terrible here. Let me actually make it for just a little bit of money so it's damage control. Right. And you know what? Nowadays, it's hilarious. You can actually just make a whole movie shot with your iPhone and probably edited on your iPhone and probably scored on your iPhone. Right. And so your movie can actually be free. If you want to shoot a test movie, weirdly, I've been directing I've been lucky enough to direct some commercials lately. Yay. But the nerd in me just has a really fun time of just saying, you know what? I think this might work, but instead of just imagining it, let me just go shoot it. Let me just go shoot it with a friend and a slider dolly and a crummy camera and just see if this thing will cut together. And it's amazing how much you learn just doing a test run. And so there's no excuse now with, the cheapness of technologies and everything else. Just like we've all got a friend or two at the very least, just try it, and so the thing is you don't mortgage your house if you don't need to, or second mortgage it rather, don't sell a kidney, if you feel like you need to, do what you're going to do. I do not condone it just in case, I don't want to get in trouble on the radio, but do whatever it takes to just make it happen, and nowadays there's not that many excuses not to try something, Make something bad because you'll just get better if it's not already good. Right.
Right. And and this business is overwhelming and it's scary but if it's something you really want, and what I find crazy is sometimes the things we want the most, we can't get ourselves to do it.
Totally. Well, we're scared of failing. We just are. Right. It matters too much.
We're scared of all the work that could be coming from it or things like that.
Exactly.
So, oh God, my phone. Sorry.
Call from 6572.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, and so if you have to break it down into little baby steps.
That's right. Exactly.
And with the writing, people are like, oh, I just can't get started. And there's so many successful writers out there that flat out say, write junk. Right for the trash can.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you have to, but then it's amazing that the action itself starts to limber you up.
Right.
It just does. And I say this, and I wish I wrote more on a daily basis. Because I also direct and I also work in a couple of other things, it's that for me, I need to remember for myself that I should write at least a couple of hours every day. Just to exercise that muscle because, I think, at least for me, I went to Stanford as an undergrad and I was like a little, I worked hard growing up and I think I was always, without knowing it or maybe even consciously, a perfectionist. And I think more than anything, that got in the way of making movies. Same with, I got into USC because I'm like, hey, this is a cool film program. This will give me some answers. But, they give you some tools, but it's still on you. But that perfectionist in me was always really scared to just take a step where I could publicly embarrass myself or, or write something that wasn't perfect from the first draft onwards. And it takes years, frankly. It took me years to get beyond that, and just to acknowledge, you know what, I work hard, and I am totally cool working hard. And at this point, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to risk embarrassment, because I just need to do stuff. I want to do things, and I need to learn. I'm no genius, so my learning is going to happen through trial and error. And I think that freed me up just a little bit. Look, we're all still spooked by that stuff. But you just want to push through it and just try it. You never know.
Yeah. And, okay, so you got the script. You've checked out your hometown.
Yeah.
You found places that you – or actually you did that first.
Yeah,
and then you started writing with the locations you knew you could get.
Right.
Now, did you surround yourself with people that you went to school with? Like, where'd you get your crew?
So that's kind of interesting. So it was a mix. Some were grad school friends or people I had met through other projects. My cinematographer, a guy named Christopher Carrillo, incredibly talented, super, super good, and he had shot a colleague's feature film as well. And it looked fantastic, but I had a meeting with the cinematographer, with Chris, and he was just so cool and on board about making an edgy, fun, overly ambitious kind of movie for tiny money, just to try something fun and dynamic. And Chris was literally the first person I brought onto the project. I'd written the script, I knew where I was going to shoot it, and then as I started to put the pieces into place, he was somebody I brought in early, because for me, I guess it's impossible. Like, the director side of me always informs the writing side, and the writing side sort of always informs the direction to some degree. But it was nice because for me, I think very visually. So it was nice to bring somebody in who would have such a large thumbprint on the movie. I just frankly just wanted it. I wanted the core group of people, all my core creative team, to all be pulling in the same direction.
Right.
And so, from that moment on, then I started reaching out and had a really cool production designer and effects makeup person and costume designer, and just started going down the list, and also very early on through Chris, I hired a very talented line producer, Valentina Bove, who was fantastic and was, just brought great energy to it. And again, I think the thing is, and I had this experience when I started to crew up. And again, most of my even though I knew I was shooting in Virginia, my department heads were going to always come from L.A. There were people I could know and talk to in the months leading up to this. And I was really hands-on and a bit of a nerd about things, and so it was just nice to be able to turn my apartment into our office and to meet up. But I think it's important to make sure that you bring on people who creatively think the same or feel the same. I mean, that's not to say that you have identical ideas, but that you're really excited about the project. Because there were a lot of people who you could tell just wanted a gig. They were freelance. We were all freelance. And they just wanted a paycheck to get them through these next couple of months. And if I had hired any of those folks, I think it would have been the death of the movie. For me, it was really important to find people. I wanted to find people who wanted to make this movie as much as I did, for whatever their reason was, And, it was to find young, hungry people with some clear expression of talent or passion, who wanted to make this exact movie. Who I didn't want anybody to think they were doing me favors, even though they were. But, I wanted people to really do it because they were getting something out of it. For instance, Chris had come from a world of doing really high-profile, great-looking, slick music videos and commercials, but had only shot one feature and was dying to do features. So it was the right fit. He was a guy who wanted to work like crazy to show the world what he could do. And the fact that he especially wanted to make a sci-fi thriller with me was perfect. And again, when you talk to people, I sent the script to everybody. I expected them to read it because, this is what we're all about to get into for the next 3 months or so. And and so ultimately that's how that process went. So it was nice that one by one I think I got a really great core group of folks who all wanted to make this movie, and they wanted to do their very best. And, that being said, too, I cast or crewed up with a ton of locals in Virginia. In fact, North Carolina School of the Arts, which is a really great school, is only a couple of hours away from my hometown. So I literally recruited graduates and undergrads, kids who were still in school, to help out with the movie.
Oh, wow. I'm sure they were thrilled, too.
They were thrilled, and by the way, I have to say, they were all, exceptionally talented. I had folks in, grip and electric and art department and every other department, and I was so impressed with their level of professionalism, with their eagerness to take on responsibility. And for me, I'm somebody who works really, really hard and puts people through the ringer before I hire them. I ask a ton of questions. I ask references. I just want to get a sense, really, of who they are. I want to hang out. And then after that, I want to let them loose. I've got tons of ideas. I've already given them what I believe is enough information to go on. And then it's really about letting them run with it, because some of these kids were incredible, but literally did it for $50 a week and free food and lodging and the chance to just hang out and get a cool job title. And I was just deeply impressed and will always be grateful to them. And a lot of them came to the screening, by the way. They were so psyched to finally see the movie on the big screen. And you were thoughtful enough to have the coolest screening venue ever. So it was nice. They all got to finally see what they were all working towards. And everybody was really proud. And you could tell, for those folks who ultimately are able to see the movie, and we're in the middle of sales right now, which is exciting, so there will be some kind of distribution for everyone. But it was, let's see, I'm not sure if I can really remember my point here. But basically at the time, everybody was just working really, really hard, and you could tell they cared. And when you watch the movie, I think you can tell that somehow miraculously things came together, and that I credit to everyone else. Everybody just did a wonderful job. Morale was fantastic. These poor kids, everybody on this whole crew, nobody had any sleep. I always have the bad idea of night shoots. And so it's hilarious, and my hometown was probably in equal parts scandalized and excited by all these crazy folks from LA who came into town. But it's fun, and at some point, probably this next year, we'll have a special hometown screening for everybody.
Nice. Would you shoot there again?
Absolutely,
Good.
I would.
Good.
And in fact, for me, I like places that don't just feel like L.A. and Pasadena and Malibu, and the kinds of places where I know we have to, many of us shoot because this is where so many crew and talent are, but it's just really nice to get out into the real world a little bit and to show people in movies different places. That I love. I love just experiencing different worlds and being like, oh, wow, this actually looks and feels like Virginia. That's cool and beautiful, and look at the crazy leaf colors and all of that.
Now, what about the casting? Because, all the actors were great. And, Alexis, which, I recognized her from Mixology.
That's right. Yep, she had some great success with that TV show.
Yeah. And I was bummed to see it, when they took it off. But I was excited when I saw her in this, and she's lovely. How did you hook up with her?
Well, so I have to say I was just terribly pleased with the wonderful performances we had by our actors. Yeah. Austin is our lead, and Alexis is essentially our co-lead.
Yep. And both are so charming.
Yeah, it was really about finding just real people. People who can express emotion, people who might have a little bit of sparkle behind their eyes, and people who don't just scream out to you as like, hey, I'm an actor. Because
right.
To me, that kills so many movies, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, especially for the kind of story I wanted to tell, and for those of you who don't know anything about it, it's really just about a normal guy who's really strangely living below the radar, who just wants to be unexceptional and blend right on in, until essentially he learns something crazy about himself by the end of the movie. But for this kind of movie, for a movie that goes into sci-fi but doesn't start overtly there from the very beginning. I just wanted really relatable humans, and for this is a sci-fi movie, but it's really the story about what it means to be a human in this world, to some degree. And so for me, like, performances have always mattered in my whole life, and I think the filmmakers I've loved and the movies I've loved have always been genre movies, but they've always had just incredible performances that I just could sink my teeth into. So I had the great luck to work with a casting director here in LA who just brought me some awesome talent. We did several rounds of auditions, but when I saw Austin and when I saw Alexis, and especially in the callbacks when they were able to act with one another, I knew that I had my Charlotte and my bread, and that was nice. I mean, and that was relatively early on in the process. That was sort of, let's say, a month before we shot, which in many cases, and this is all brand new to me, is crazy lead time. A lot of people don't get cast until right when you're about to shoot, which for me I think might not have been enough time to prepare. But it was so wonderful getting both these actors on board, because in LA we'd hang out frequently and just talk about character and talk about backstories and everything else, so that by the time we actually were going to shoot this, we could just hit the ground running. And I think and I think we did, and I think you can feel it in their performances, in the way that they relate to one another, in their sort of yin and yang sort of spirits with one another. It was again, I was just so lucky to have these guys on board, because I think you could tell that they cared. And again, it was just about having a group of people, because in my limited experience, it feels that it doesn't take much to accidentally destroy amazing goodwill. So what we took a really long time, or what I was really careful in doing, which was curating this positive attitude, all of that can be very easily deflated if you bring even just one wrong person in. Yeah. So I was just super lucky that everybody we brought in, I mean, and we had, I had fantastic luck casting some of the supporting characters. One guy is Adam Shapiro, who plays Trent in the movie. Another guy is David Lee, who plays the leader, who were incredible professionals. They work all the time. You've seen them in a million things. And they just came and had such fantastic energy and joked around and laughed, and were just so generous, both as actors for me and as actors to one another. It really felt like a family.
I'm sure it did. And I love that you as a director, because I know a lot of your extras were probably locals.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that you listed them all on IMDb.
Yes. Yeah,
That's very kind of you to do that for these people.
That's fun, though, right? I mean, at the end of the day, people help me so much. And look, it's a very small perk. It's hardly, it's the very least I could do. And, if I had money, I would have paid them. But since I didn't, what I wanted them to do is to feel very appreciated. And frankly, to be able to look themselves up online and be like, yep, I was in that movie, for better or for worse.
So cool.
Thankfully it turned out pretty well, and I think they were all pretty jazzed about it.
Oh, I'm sure. I have to tell you, we have a lot of fans that come for horror.
Right.
And so many of them came up to me and they said, Denise, when I saw that it was a sci-fi, I was thinking, but I loved it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yay.
so I think that's really cool that you were able to pull in these diehard horror fans, too.
Well, thank you, everyone in the universe who came and liked the movie, or even if you came and didn't love it. I appreciate your time and having you come and check it out, because I respect all fans, and frankly, I want to make movies for audiences. I just do.
Yeah.
I'm not a precious filmmaker who wants to make something incredibly art house and esoteric. That being said, I mean, I love amazing dramas and amazing art house movies. They're not necessarily what I want to do, because I always want that backbone of horror or sci-fi or action or thriller. There's something about the movies I've always loved having both right. Performance and that the backbone of a structure like a genre, that I want to make movies that people want to see. I'd love to make movies that people see in their local theater plexes, and things like that, you know. But so I love any and all fans and accept whatever criticism comes, which, by the way, is easier said than done. One has to have a thick skin, and I'm not sure mine's quite thick enough yet, but that's the way of this business.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, and you have to know the ones that are, you know, may have a point, and you have to know the ones that are just full of themselves and ignore them. That's
right.
But, there is a question that came in via email from Jason. He wants to know if you have any advice on raising money. It's like the number one question of every filmmaker.
Super good question. I have asked that question a million times myself. Okay, yep. So here's the hard answer. There is no trick, typically. Okay? And, you know, and I had tried, you know, I guess it really depends, because as you become more and more established, and if you're lucky enough to build some kind of a name or a brand, money is slightly more forthcoming. But if you're somebody who wants to direct, or if you want to produce, I think besides having the talent of that itself, you need to couple that with the ability to fundraise, which isn't fun. It's not fun at all. It's my least favorite part of the process. But ironically, it's, for better or for worse, maybe the most fundamental, because without the funds to be able to make a thing, you cannot do that thing. So, you know, I think the trick is to be smart about it, right? Like, I don't think the answer, at least in my own personal opinion, I don't think the answer is to hit up all your family and friends and to make folks take loans and to max out credit cards to make a movie, because I think you should just take a step back at that point and say, you know what, what's a way for me to rethink this to make it affordably? At least, I mean, look, all movies are very expensive, but I think there's a way to approach it cautiously. I think I don't think that it makes, and again, this is only my personal opinion. You might disagree completely, Denise, but I think it's smart to approach it from the financial aspect, approach it slightly more business-like. I mean, look, my passion and my heart drives why I do this, but for any given project, you know, I think it's important to recognize where you are in the scale of expertise, you know, to have, you know, just to think and consider things candidly, like, look, what are the odds that this might not turn out perfectly? If so, this money that I'm about to raise, is this money that these people will desperately miss and that might change their lives for the worse if they lost it all? You know, these are only negative things you think about briefly, but really I think the thing is you want to talk to people you can have very straightforward business relationships with, you know. And even if it's like your family or friends, if people are going to give money, be very straightforward about it. You know, I found that I had the best luck when I said, look, I'm going to be very clear about what the risks are. You're going to see that I believe, you know, I think I am perfectly suited to direct this movie. This is my plan. This is my budget. You know, this is how I think I can actually pull it off. These are the people I'm going to be hiring. You know, this is the amount of money I need. Now, bear in mind that, you know, I'm going to give you the deal that says you're going to get X amount back plus X on top of that if we make some money back. But bear in mind, it is also possible this movie might make no money back. Now, if that's the case, let's just be frank. You know, I want you. Let's treat this as an experiential investment. All right. Let's say, you know, instead of going to Hawaii for 2 weeks every year that you do, that's like really fun, and you spend maybe $15,000 or $10,000 on it. Why don't you just come to the set and hang out and like get the experience of being a producer, and maybe you can even consider that as part of the compensation. You know, because in some weird way, I think it's, at least for first features and other kinds of things, you know, I don't feel great about tricking people into giving me their money. Yeah. And the movie business is risky. It's so fun and so amazing, but you know, the business side is pretty weird and hard, and surprisingly a lot of people are risk averse. And so I know a lot of first time filmmakers who go out to family and friends, but I love my family and friends, and I don't want to overly put them in
right.
debt for something. Or, you know, I mean, and I mean it just in the most honest way is, you know, I want to, you know, I put some of my money in this just to show everybody, like, look, I care and I have something to lose. But I think people should only invest what they can reasonably afford to lose. And I think what should always be offered is the chance to take part. Because that's, in my opinion, what the real trade-off is. Because the life cycle, or the timeline, rather, for movies, from when they get distributed, from when they're made to then being finished to then finally distributed to then even later than that, when the money comes in, that can be years. And so anybody who gives you money really shouldn't be expecting to see anything back for a year or two at the earliest. And so in the meantime, why not try to get something out of it and show them what the fun part of it all really is, which is like, hey, look, be involved, be a producer, come to set, hang out with me at the monitors, you know, because I'm, at least from a personal perspective, I'm not in touch with people with like millions and millions of dollars to put in. And I'm not, you know, I'm not getting like an $80 million studio package or anything like that, you know. So it's always a hustle trying to find money. You know, the other thing that I think can be useful and people should look into is that different states and territories have soft funds that they can allocate towards filmmakers. And so for me, I already knew that I was going to shoot in Virginia, but Virginia also has like just the wonderfully, like the most wonderful, like sweetest film commission who was like, look, you know, we'll give you and I'm not sure if this is still the case, but at the time, they're like, look, you'll get a 10% rebate on any money you spend in state, you know, for goods, for hiring, for anything else like that. So all of a sudden, without knowing it, oh, that's a little chunk of money that I know I'm going to get back. So then, and it, you know, so, and there's some territories like, I mean, I think Georgia still has its really great thing going on. Maybe it's still Michigan and Illinois, Louisiana, I'm pretty sure is still going strong. But some places will give you huge tax incentives. So, you know, again, you have to do the homework and you have to figure out like, well, is my total budget going to be something that triggers these kinds of these incentives? But it's definitely something, you know, everybody should do their homework. I'm a nerd in that sort of way where I do all the homework, but then at the end of the day, you still have to go with your gut or make the decision, and it might not always be economically the most sound, but for me, I was willing to take the trade-off of just getting a tiny bit of money back, knowing that I was going to be able to shoot it in a hometown where I could get all of these things, have all these other intangible resources at my hands. And so I think people just need to consider that for themselves. But, yes, sorry for the very, very long, drawn-out answer, but
I love it, though.
There is no simple way. You know, when you're going to family and friends, go with passion, but also go with, like, a little bit of your brain knowing that, you know, these are people who really love you, so repay that love by maybe not making them go in the hole for you. And then look at all those other things like tax incentives, grants, other stuff like that. You know, and frankly, what they should have told me in film school, and I tell you now, go make rich friends. That's the homework. Go make rich friends and go befriend movie stars, and then your financing and your casting is handled. For those of us in the rest of the normal world who have difficulty with that, you can do these other things I'm talking about.
That's so funny. Yeah. Live your whole life to find those rich people and those celebrities that you can put in your movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, I think it's very exciting, and you've been making the rounds at the festivals, and
I have.
And you got to be loving this. You're getting all kinds of wins.
It's been really nice. You know, it's funny because I mean, like you'd know, Denise, when you submit to, basically you go through this whole process of making the movie, and you're in your own little bubble, and you try to show rough cuts to people who can think outside of their friendship with you and actually help you evaluate the movie and clarify things, other stuff like that. And you always have the intention to make it for audiences, but then you start sending it to festivals with the hope that they will accept it and then screen it, and then in turn, audiences might have a positive reaction. So you're in this weird world where your stomach is just kind of churning. You know, the odds aren't really in favor of the filmmakers necessarily, because festivals they just have a hard job. They get so many submissions and have to find movies that they think are cool, that also fit into their program, that, you know, and maybe there's another movie that's kind of similar to yours, so they can't have two that way, or maybe they do show some sci-fi or some horror, but only a small fraction of what they program. So it's tricky. So ever getting accepted is already a huge thing, and then beyond that, being lucky enough to have audiences like it, I have to say it's why I do this. I love sitting in it's twofold. I love sitting in a crowd and seeing people react positively, and it's also the thing that terrifies me every single time, because you're just hoping that they laugh at the joke, so you're hoping that they're not shifting in their seats at the wrong times or coughing or taking pee breaks or whatever.
Right.
When it really matters. But yes, it's been really, really fun lately to have audiences respond, and hopefully, I mean, it looks like I have some cool sales agents on the scene, and at American Film Market we started selling the movie, and I think we're going to have get this out globally distributed in the next several months. So hopefully folks will get a chance to check it out. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, you know, once you get that news, do not forget to tweet Shriekfest, and I'll help get the word out, and Facebook post, whatever you need, I will help you get the word out.
Thank you. And again, I'm so grateful for your enthusiasm, just generally for the genre and specifically for me and for other filmmakers. It really shows. And I just wish there were a million of you out there, because, you know, those of you who haven't met Denise, I really encourage you to, because she's wonderful and really just believes in filmmaking, and those of us who try to make those movies. So thank you, Denise, again.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, I think you're wonderful, and all the. I mean, don't we get? It's so weird. You said earlier that maybe it's me generating that energy, but it amazes me every year that the people are wonderful. So people will come to the festival thinking it's going to be, you know, like every man for himself. It's not.
It's really
like
not.
A little family every year, and then that family attaches to past year families, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. It's amazing.
That's right. No, I was just struck by it. I've never met such generous filmmakers and attendees. You know, even for the award ceremony, I was so shocked because people were more generous than even I thought I could be. And I'm a relatively generous, like, friendly, chatty guy. But when you called out my name for the award, other filmmakers, other people who had sci-fi films as well, just clapped and were cheering and were like, "Hey, that was my favorite movie too. Congratulations." That's amazing when your fellow filmmakers tell you that.
Yes.
And it's been, I can't tell you how long it's been since I've been around people with such generous spirits who were just, again, supportive of the community. Because I think a lot of us, you can get in this little hole where it's just you and your movie, and you're really hoping to you're thinking in this strange competitive way about getting it out into the universe, or about raising financing, or about wanting your movie to be better than other people's. But it's kind of not about that, you know?
No.
And I've realized, having gone through what is just like the most insane, long, heartbreaking, and simultaneously fulfilling process of making a feature film, my heart goes to anyone who makes a movie. Just period.
Yeah.
Terrible or awesome, I love you equally, because it's a lot to do. Same with, like, writing, same with acting. You know, I appreciate all of these disciplines, and I don't think that within our own businesses we get affection from our colleagues. So I'm here to now just give affection to anyone. If anyone ever has any questions, find me on Facebook, or, you know, through the website, theanswermovie.com, and write to me, and I will do my very best to write back to you. And, you know, again, I'm no expert on things, but if I can help ever, I'm happy to.
Nice. I was just going to ask, where can people find you? And you did it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and you can also find me at myname.com. Basically, it's iqbalahmed.com. iqbalahmed.com. So, you know, any of these places, or theanswermovie.com, just go to the contact section, and I promise you those emails come right into my email inbox, so I will reply. So, you know, I'm happy to communicate. And again, thank you for everyone who saw the movie and liked it. And, we're just frankly just saw the movie. I'm grateful.
Yay! And before we run out of time,
sure,
let's talk about STEM.
Oh yeah, right.
Because I know you're currently raising money to make STEM, which was a finalist at Shriekfest this year. So how's that going? Are you getting excited? Are you is it like the pain of having a baby and now the pain's gone and you're like, okay, I can do it again sort of thing?
Yeah, a little bit. Honestly, it's one of these kinds of things where I'm easing into it because it's a movie that I'd like to make at a larger budget. I think it's a movie that it is a horror film essentially about a stem cell researcher who goes crazy. He has good reasons for doing so, but essentially there's a lot of sort of family drama in it, but it is a horror film. And for me, it's the movie that I'd love to do next. But that being said, I do think that it needs a certain budget for cast, which will be vital for this. And just the general production values. It's something that I think is going to take a little bit of time to raise the money for. And so we'll see. Again, I'm starting just now, having wrapped up The Answer and having finally earned a little bit of money lately to stay afloat. It's now trying to figure out how to get back into this and what I need to put together to start making it happen. But
awesome.
But I'm excited. Yeah, and thankfully people have responded to the script too, so we'll see. I'll keep you posted on that front, and maybe if I'm lucky, down the line I'll get to screen it with you guys. You're my new favorite festival, so yeah, whatever I can do to get into Shriekfest, I will.
Yay! Well, I just love when, it was a finalist this year, and then to see it come back as the movie. I love when that happens. It's the coolest.
Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like,
it's kind of like being a kindergarten teacher and seeing your children grow up a little bit, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so, so cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful chatting with you. I love your energy, and cool. I'm really excited for all the good things that are coming your way.
Well, thank you. And I have to say that, it's whatever honors I might or might not get, being able to screen and then win at Shriekfest meant so much. And just knowing you coming from, if that were the only thing out of this, it would long since have been worth it. So,
thank you.
You will be kept in the loop. And again, thank you for everybody who listened today. Please forgive my verbosity. I talk too much. I am enthusiastic like a puppy. So, hope I didn't bore anybody. But again, reach out if there's anything I didn't cover.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. Thank you. And, you got your website out there. Say it one more time so everyone has it.
Sure. For the film, The Answer, it's theanswermovie.com.
Okay.
And for me personally, it is iqbalahmed.com. That is IQB as in boy, ALAHMED.com. So,
excellent.
Yes, reach out. Let me know you're out there. And yes, absolutely feel free to like or to follow me or anything like that. I'm a total dork when it comes to social media, so I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm happy to say hello.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Iqbal, and we will chat soon.
All right. Thank you, Denise. This is a real treat.
You have a great rest of your evening.
All right. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Great energy. Really, really enjoyed having him on the show. So much fun. And yes, track down his movie. You're going to love it. It's such a cool story. And listen to his ideas of how he went about getting it made and finding the locations and all that. I think it's pretty cool. And the fact that you put it out to the universe like that and kind of commits you, and I'm all for that. So you guys have a great week. Keep pursuing those dreams. Write if you want to write. Act if you want to act. Get those films. Like he said, pull out your iPhone and start taping. Just play around. I'm about to be cut off because the show is over, but I'll see you back here next week, guys. Have a great one.